Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
We are looking at a live news conference of the mother and father of the accused shooter of Timothy Reynolds. It happened over the summer. His attorneys, Warren Brown and J. Wendell Gordon, spoke a moment ago. Let's take a listen to what his mother is saying.
Do you have any thoughts just on this latest offer today?
You don't have to answer.
Any offer is crazy to me.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
The state in its Mosby offering a plea deal to Tavon Scott, who shot my husband point blank 5 times while he was walking away. She never contacted the family.
This is an unconscionable betrayal of your responsibility to stand up for the victims in this case.
Family members of Timothy Reynolds say they feel betrayed after finding out the teen accused of killing him could spend less than a year behind bars. After accepting a plea deal they say they knew nothing about. Good afternoon, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Timothy Reynolds died after a violent encounter with squeegee kids in July. Police say Reynolds got into a confrontation with a group of squeegee kids at Conway and Light Streets. Reynolds crossed the busy downtown streets to confront the boys.
Well, according to police reports, Reynolds swung a bat at the group but didn't hit anyone, according to police. Police say one of the boys threw a rock at his head. Then as Reynolds stumbled away and moved away, police say the boy, who was 14 at the time, shot Reynolds 5 times. 4 of the shots, police say, hit Reynolds as he lay on the ground. We have live team coverage this afternoon.
We are going to begin with Mackenzie Frost. Mackenzie, the family of Timothy Reynolds frustrated with this news of a plea deal today. What are they saying?
Yeah, Mary and Kai, it was an emotional news conference. The family says that they had no idea that this was coming. They say that they were blindsided. According to the Reynolds family, news of this plea deal came Friday, which we know now includes the suspect to plead guilty to manslaughter charges. It's unclear exactly how much time the suspect would receive, but the conversation surrounding that, right now at least, includes up to 9 months in a juvenile facility. Now, we did hear from the widow of Timothy Reynolds, Shannon Reynolds, for the first time today. She's breaking her silence. She says that she did not know about this plea deal and says what they're talking about right now is not justice for her husband.
She never contacted the family this whole time, and she's supposed to do that. It's protocol. And that's why I'm here today. It's very hard for me to speak. I'm a private person. But I want justice for Tim, and I need everyone's help. I was blindsided Friday when I spoke and I heard that the state in its Mosby offering a plea deal to Tavon Scott, who shot my husband point blank 5 times while he was walking away. Mosby should recuse herself.
And so, Mackenzie, what is the family hoping can be done at this time?
Well, Kai, that was a question that they were forced to answer today, and they say they want the public to know what's going on. Their victim impact statements have been provided, which will be given to the judge ahead of what we do know is a hearing scheduled for Thursday morning. The judge has yet to accept or reject this agreement that's on the table right now. We do expect that to happen during that hearing on Thursday, so we'll have to wait and see what comes out of that hearing. In the meantime, City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby is not commenting on this case. We're live in Baltimore. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. That brings us to our question of the day. Should Marilyn Mosby recuse herself from the squeegee murder case? So far, 100% of the people who voted say yes. We want to hear what you think. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. Tharu Vignaraja, who is acting as the Reynolds family spokesperson, will join us live in less than 30 minutes to talk more about what happened today.
Within the last hour, the attorney representing the teenager accused of shooting Timothy Reynolds responded to the claims he made by the Reynolds family this morning. One of the attorneys said that they have spoken with eyewitnesses.
The man said that he was going to kill these children. He said, he used expletives. He said, I'm going to kill your effing A's. So I don't care what a video shows. What we saw in the video was the man swinging his bat. What we saw from the information that we received was that the man made contact with at least a child, struck him twice, and he was shot in return.
Well, we will have a live report from Jeff Abel coming up, since that news conference just wrapped up minutes ago as we were starting this newscast. Now, along with squeegeeing, dirt bikes remain a problem in the city. As we switch gears, Alexa Ashwell continues our live team coverage. Today's questioning the mayor and commissioner about the laws in place and enforcement of each. Alexa?
Yes, Mary, we're talking about two different issues, but both, some say, contributing to the overall lawlessness here in the city.
As the family of Timothy Reynolds breaks their silence,
They failed everyone. They failed us.
the mayor just 2 blocks away hosting an unrelated press conference.
Good morning, everyone.
Here, answering to their stance, their loved one's death could have been prevented had the laws surrounding squeegeeing been fully enforced. It's a question Fox 45 News has been asking since the homicide back in July.
Do you dispute that?
Well, I think, Alexa, thank you for your question. I think that the data disputes that, right? When you see the amount of arrests that our police department has made for guns, when you see the record amount of gun arrests and gun seizures that they've made in the city this year, when you see the amount of folks involved in squeegee work who went to criminal behavior that they've arrested, the data would say it's something else different than that.
Yet the problem and debate over the correct solution persists. Similarly, the ongoing issue of dirt bikes and the enforcement of removing those illegally riding throughout the city. Just this past weekend, police responding to shots fired in Harbor East. Here, they say one rider opened fire on a man who threw a bag of leaves at them. No one was hurt. The city recently passing a law that stiffens penalties for street racing and the riding of dirt bikes in the city, but some people saying it's simply not enough.
Ultimately, what's going to happen is, until someone gets hurt, they're not going to change the policy. They didn't come up with a squeegee collaborative to change policy about squeegee kids until someone actually got killed.
It's a question Fox 45 News asked the commissioner.
Is BPD empowered to make those arrests of dirt bike riders?
BPD is empowered to make arrests on anybody who commits any kind of crime. Anybody who commits a crime, that's what we do. We enforce criminal law. And so the answer to that is yes. We always have. We always will.
And no arrests have been made in that Harbor East discharge. We also asked the mayor about the shots fired and the enforcement of laws surrounding dirt bikes here in the city. His response at 5. For now, reporting live outside police headquarters, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Fox 45 News also sent a question to City Council members saying you recently passed a bill strengthening the penalties for dirt bike riders who violate the law. Are you satisfied with BPD's enforcement of the law? So far, we haven't heard back.
Also in a city in crisis, Fox 45 News continues to follow efforts by some members of the Baltimore City Council to shorten the amount of time for them to qualify for a lifetime pension. If it becomes law, it's an issue that could cost taxpayers for generations to come. Fox 45's Amy Simpson joins us live right now and takes a closer look at this issue. Amy?
Yeah, Kai, so this proposal to change pension eligibility for council members comes even despite some inside City Hall questioning if the city can afford this change and why there's a rush to pass this right now. From coast to coast, consistency in the size of city councils across major U.S. cities does not mean consistency in the population they represent. In Los Angeles, 15 council members represent a population of more than 3.8 million people. In Houston, 16 council members represent nearly 2.3 million residents. In Atlanta, 16 city council people for 496,000 residents. And here in Charm City, 15 members of council for 576,000 Baltimoreans. Just last year, a Fox 45 News commentator questioned if the size of Baltimore City Council warrants a change as the city's population continues to decline.
Your political power shrinks when your population shrinks. So maybe the city should take a page from the federal and state level and tie the number of city council members to population.
Now an entirely new debate on the table as an effort by some members of Baltimore City Council looks to change when council qualifies for a lifetime pension. The proposal calling to shorten the pension eligibility from 12 years down to 8 years. The effort comes as Baltimore City voters just passed Question K on Election Day, establishing term limits for these elected officials. CEO of OpenTheBooks.com weighing in again.
So the real question is, why does a part-time position, elected position, deserve a lifetime pension? Much less to shorten the rules.
For a city with a shrinking population and tax base, and an elected council with 15 members at any one time, Adam Andrzejewski indicates pensions for council members will cost the city a pretty penny.
We crunched the numbers. If they live from age 50 to life expectancy with cost of living increases to their lifetime pension, they'll receive about $500,000. It's really good to vote yourself benefits from the public trough, and it raises real questions of self-dealing.
Some members of council have said they don't support the pension plan, or they've abstained from voting on the issue that would impact them directly. But earlier this month, the Baltimore City Police Union outraged by the proposal, pointing out 12 years ago, the city's police and fire saw an increase in the amount of time served for its own pension eligibility. What was a 20-year retirement plan became 25 years. Baltimore's Fraternal Order of Police said city council should stop its current plans or return police and fire pensions back to the 20-year eligibility immediately.
The counselors are in part-time positions, and they're going to have a better suite of benefits for retirement than the full-time city workers.
Now, this bill, this plan proposal to potentially change pension eligibility for city council members is headed for a third reading at City Hall sometime in the next few weeks, though no exact date has been set on any of council's agendas just yet. Last week, Fox 45 News asked the mayor if he would sign this plan if it passes. He said he hadn't yet looked over the proposal. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Amy. And that brings us to our other question of the day. Is it fair for first responders to wait 25 years for a city pension while the council waits 8? So far, 97% of the people who voted say no. We want to hear what you think. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Making headlines now, mobile sports betting could be coming to Maryland this month. On Wednesday, the Sports Wagering Application Review Commission will consider awarding licenses to 10 mobile sports wagering firms. Businesses awarded the license will still have to meet the state's requirements, so it's unlikely they will be able to start taking bets immediately, but the mobile sports books could open soon after. Be the first to know about breaking news by signing up for News on the Go. Go to foxbaltimore.com, click on mobile alert, sign up under the station tab. You can also download the Fox 45 app for your smartphone. Just search WBFF in your app store.
A tragic scene at the University of Virginia. Coming up, what we know after police say a gunman kills 3 members of the school's football team.
I'm Christine Frizzell in Washington, where House Republicans are forging ahead with a plan despite not knowing for sure whether they'll be able to carry it out.
And another cold one tonight as temperatures fall back down through the 40s into the 30s by the end of the afternoon and evening commute. And this could be followed by some moisture tomorrow. I'll let you know if it's going to be rain or something else. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Developing right now, the University of Virginia community is reeling after a devastating shooting late last night. 3 UVA football players were shot and killed on a charter bus after coming back from a school field trip to D.C. 2 other students are in the hospital tonight.
The suspect is a former football player himself, but police are still working to figure out a motive. Joy Wang from our sister station in Washington joins us with the very latest on this tragedy for the school and the whole community. Joy?
The scene I'm standing at right now, or really the lack of a scene right now, this road was very active. We saw the bus here. We saw a number of police cars here. Now, none of it. But I want to talk a little bit about what happened just a couple hours ago. It was shortly after the press conference, and I was trying to put this story together. A football player walked up to me, and he said he wanted to make sure we let everyone know that the 3 football players who died, the 3 team members he lost, were incredible people. They were selfless, always wanted the success of others, and always put their team first.
Pardon me.
This was the moment. University Police Chief Tim Longo, in front of university leaders and a packed room of journalists, learned the suspect was
Captain.
in custody.
We just received information the suspect is in custody.
An emotional moment and sigh of relief after the University of Virginia campus was on lockdown for 12 hours as police searched for former UVA football player, 22-year-old Christopher Darnell Jones Jr., the suspected shooter.
The shootings occurred on a bus full of students returning from a field trip. 3 of the victims did not survive.
For hours, you could see the bus behind the state police crime scene truck as detectives gathered evidence. It was supposed to be a fun trip to D.C., a class field trip to see a play. But after they returned, police say Devin Chandler from Virginia Beach and Deshaun Perry from Miami, Florida, were shot and killed.
Where they had been for the day, enjoying a school activity, having a meal together, and coming back to our grounds, and someone amongst them chose to do an act of violence.
Lavelle Davis Jr. from Ridgeville, South Carolina, was taken to the hospital and later died. 2 other students were injured.
My heart is broken for the victims and their families and for all those who knew and loved them, and they are all in my prayers.
But were there warning signs? University police said Jones was brought to the attention of the threat assessment team at the Office of Student Affairs this fall.
They received information that Mr. Jones had made a comment about possessing a gun to a person that was unaffiliated with the university.
Chief Longo says the report didn't come with threats. Plus, Student Affairs followed up with a roommate who didn't see a gun. Then there were reports of a hazing incident. That case, police say, was also closed because witnesses wouldn't cooperate.
But through the course of the threat assessment team's investigation, we learned of a prior criminal incident involving a concealed weapon violation that occurred outside the city of Charlottesville in February of 2021.
Now, Jones is facing more charges, 3 counts of second-degree murder and 3 counts of using a handgun in the commission of a felony.
Back out here live, Henrico police actually arresting Jones shortly before 11 o'clock this morning. And while this scene is no longer active, this investigation very much is. Live in Charlottesville, Joy Wang, Fox 45 News.
All right, everybody. Well, we are tracking our next weather maker. Let's go ahead and take a look at the HD radar. In north and west, what do you see there? Well, those are winter weather advisories that are up into the highlands of West Virginia and Pennsylvania. Now, that does not mean we're going to be seeing any issues here necessarily out of wintry weather, but boy, is it going to be close. You can actually see some of the snow that's just edging in as you head up toward Milwaukee, Chicago, some of that blue up there. And that's with the next weather maker. There is going to be the chilly air that sets up, and it is quite chilly out today. Temperatures only at about 50 degrees this afternoon, even under sunshine. But there's the next weather maker. Now, would this be, say, January or February? Probably a totally different situation with this storm track. This is going to take a cold storm track for us. So you see, deep enough into the cold air, it is snowing with some winter storm warnings in portions of Oklahoma. And there's the blue. There's the snow that's in the panhandle of Texas all the way to Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, up to about St. Louis. But that will traipse generally north and west of us. But it is going to be a cold rain that develops tomorrow afternoon and could potentially be a couple of wet snowflakes well north and west over the highest elevation. So we'll track that in a second. But 48 degrees now. Toyota Cedar Harbor Skycam. It's calm, mainly clear. Actually, a beautiful end to the day, although you are going to need a heavy jacket. Freeze warnings on the eastern side of the Chesapeake Bay, eastern shore. You have not ended the growing season yet. That's why you're seeing those freeze warnings up. Everyone else has, after temperatures getting down to 32 at the airport last night, and upper 20s, low 30s pretty much elsewhere except the immediate urban centers. Temperatures right now only in the 40s, and it looks like another night spent likely below freezing tonight. So you're going to have to bundle up again tomorrow morning when you're heading out. Look at the cold all across the northern tier of the United States, even Dallas, Texas, 43, Oklahoma City, a cold 37. Beating off of teens up around Bismarck. So we're not the coldest part of the country, but we are going to get a little piece of that chilly air overnight into tomorrow. That's going to keep us with that threat of a cold rain. And again, let's go ahead and track this by tomorrow afternoon. I think tomorrow's dry in the morning, but tomorrow afternoon, the greens move in. There's the blue. That's a snow over portions of the Appalachians and the Blue Ridge. Notice just how close it gets maybe here tomorrow evening, especially say like Tawnytown. Some of the coldest spots with temperatures in the 30s and a good rain falling could get some of those fat, wet flakes mixing in. Wouldn't be totally surprised. Shouldn't really accumulate to anything. And otherwise, it's really just kind of a wet effect to things all the way through about just after midnight tomorrow night. And then Wednesday morning, there could be a stray sprinkle just prior to sunrise before that moves out. And then it's back to 50s for one day before we go back well below average again. In terms of rainfall totals, could see a solid half-inch to an inch of rain. So thankfully, this is just going to be rain. And 46. Boy, is that a cold one tomorrow. Should be in the mid to upper 50s, 55 Wednesday, and back down into the 40s again. Dries out just in time for this weekend and the Ravens game. But you're going to need some heavy jackets and sweatshirts.
Coming up, Baltimore City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises is already the highest paid school leader in the state. Now, Project Baltimore findings on exactly how much she's taking home each year. Plus, Governor Hogan speaks out against a statement by Donald Trump that Hogan is calling racist. What it's all about just ahead. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi believes it would be a good idea to raise the debt ceiling during the lame duck session while she still has the power to do so. She was asked about that possibility on ABC News.
I think it would be very important for us to do so. I think it's important to note that what the Republicans have said is they're going to use the vote on the debt limit as leverage to cut Medicare and Social Security. I think the public should know that.
Well, Pelosi is referring to an idea floated by Republican Senator Rick Scott to sunset Social Security. Scott says the goal is to save Social Security by reducing the debt.
People agree with this. They don't like inflation. They don't like an open border. They don't like $31 trillion worth of debt. In the last 16 years, the debt has gone from $9 to $31 trillion. We got to change. It's hurting our families.
And in another major issue in Washington and across the nation, President Biden says he wants to pass legislation to codify abortion rights into law, but says Democrats don't have the votes to get it done.
I don't think they can expect much of anything other than we're going to maintain our positions. I don't think there's enough votes to codify.
Too close to call. Why we still don't know who will represent Anne Arundel County as elected leaders for the next 4 years. We do know Wes Moore will occupy the governor's office, who he's bringing with him to Annapolis to fill out his cabinet.
Maryland's Governor-elect Wes Moore is getting to work, planning out his administration before his inauguration in January.
That's right. Today, he announced his first round of staff hires, and our Brad Bell from our sister station in Washington was there. Brad, any surprises?
No, not really. He is bringing in people that he knows very well. Look, Moore and his team ran a very successful, well-organized campaign. Now they have to get down to the business of governing. That means he has to build an administration, and he's not wasting any time. Less than a week after being declared governor-elect, Wes Moore going about the business of creating his administration. As Democrat Moore takes over from Republican Governor Larry Hogan, there will likely be complete turnover in appointed positions. Today, Moore naming the staff who will work with him in the State House. At the top of the list, Fagan Harris, who will serve as chief of staff. Harris currently leads a nonprofit he founded in Baltimore and has never worked in government. Those named today, legislative officer, budget secretary, chief counsel, and appointments secretary, likely won't be seen in public often. But Moore says his selections fulfill a campaign promise.
That our administration will look like the state of Maryland. That I want for everyone around the state of Maryland, when you look at all of our, eventually the full cabinet and agency heads, et cetera, that they can look up at the administration and say that they see themselves, that they know their voice is going to be heard.
So again, the people that he named today, these are the people who are going to be working on a daily basis very closely with Governor Moore when he becomes governor on the second floor of the State House. In the weeks and months ahead, he's going to hire many more people, including those who will lead agencies and potentially thousands of others as we see this big turnover in government. In Annapolis, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
Brad, thank you. We're now 6 days after Election Day, and mail-in ballots continue to be counted in Anne Arundel County. This evening, we're still waiting for results to be posted from Tuesday's canvass, but some races are too close to call, with tens of thousands of ballots still to be counted. In the race for Anne Arundel County Executive, the most recent results show Republican Jessica Hare's lead is shrinking. Now, fewer than 6,000 votes ahead of incumbent Democrat Stuart Pittman. On Friday, Pittman's campaign said it was more confident than ever in its path to re-election. A total of nearly 50,000 mail-in ballots were returned by Anne Arundel County voters.
Regardless of what happens in Anne Arundel County, we know Democrats will have one-party control in Annapolis this upcoming legislative session. Megan Gillen speaks with the taxpayer protection watchdog about what it could mean for your wallet.
For the first time in 8 years, Democrats will have full control of the legislative and executive branches in Maryland. Here to weigh in on what this means for Marylanders, David Williams with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance.
I'm always concerned when one party has control of everything, right? Because you're looking at a potential rubber stamp of ideas, of policies, of spending. And when you look at Maryland, I'm very concerned because there's a supermajority in the House of Delegates and the Senate. So this could be really bad for taxpayers.
Is there a positive side of maybe getting more done?
Well, more will get done, but is that more better? I mean, that's the problem, is that, there really are no checks and balances now in the system. There's really no threat of a veto. And with the Democrats, and again, this isn't about just Democrats, it's about Republicans also. It's about one party controlling everything. And that's why on the national level, we're probably going to have a split Senate and House, and that's going to really pump the brakes on a lot of spending and potentially bad policies.
Well, the newly elected leaders will officially take office in January. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
Back to our city in crisis coverage. The teen accused of shooting and killing Timothy Reynolds has accepted a plea deal, dropping his charges from first-degree murder to manslaughter.
And that means his case goes to the juvenile justice system instead of the adult system. Joining us live in studio is Tharu Vignarajah, who is serving as the Reynolds family spokesperson. Tharu, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
The defense claims the facts of this case support a manslaughter conviction instead of a murder conviction. Does that add up for you? I asked you earlier, have you watched the video? There's a video of what happened.
Yeah, look, the defense lawyers have to do their job and present a fiction to the public that supports their client, but the facts speak for themselves, and this is undisputed because we've now seen the video. The defendant in this case retrieves a backpack, pulls down a mask, and then follows the victim and shoots him 5 times, multiple times in the back. That's not self-defense. That's not an accident. It's first-degree murder. It's what the grand jury returned, and ultimately we believe that the judge will see that this plea deal is a laughable, ridiculous outrage, and that the victim's voice will be heard.
Well, Tharu, I guess the defense team did speak a little while ago. They dispute the claims about Mr. Reynolds simply being shot in the back. Beyond that, do you think an adult conviction would be appropriate for a child who was 14 at the time of the killing? And if he gets out, and we've seen this before, it's not just Maryland, the recidivism rate is high across the country. Many are saying the adult system is more punishment than it is rehabilitation.
Look, the family members themselves said this is such a tragedy for a young man to be charged with such a serious crime, and his age ought to be a factor at sentencing. It ought to be a mitigating circumstance that the judge considers. But to issue a plea deal without ever telling the victim, this is not the first time Marilyn Mosby's done this. She's making a habit of abdicating her responsibility to the family, to the citizens, and she is at this point just taking care of her own legacy and her own friends. It's really shameful.
We have seen Baltimore police monitoring, of course, the corners without acting, and the mayor has repeatedly told us squeegeeing is protected speech like panhandling. The collaborative is going to change some things in January. But do you think city leadership shares any blame in Reynolds' death? Should they be held liable? We know the family is suing.
You're absolutely right. They've sued, and they have good cause to sue. The city has permitted these circumstances to exist for years. They were warned that morning by a state senator that there was confrontations and altercations happening at that very corner. Another young man was arrested earlier that day with a BB gun, and they did nothing. We have turned a blind eye to a situation that is so predictable. It is a powder keg waiting to go off. It already went off once. Tim Reynolds was shot by a young man who retrieved a gun, retreated from the altercation, pulled down a mask, and then returned to shoot the victim in the back. And Kai, the autopsy results speak for themselves. There are photos of the bullet wounds, and the bullets are in the victim's back.
Theroux, if the family does sue, and that's obviously they have that prerogative to do so, shouldn't the families of the 300 other Baltimoreans who've been killed have an opportunity to do the same thing against the city and argue they haven't been protected either?
Yeah, look, I think there is certainly a credible claim that the city has not done enough in general. We know that there's a lawlessness in this city that has taken hold over these past 8 years, but this is specific to this squeegee confrontation where the city knows that it can enforce the law. It's going to start in January enforcing the law, so there isn't any constitutional impediment to doing it. They just have not done it for years, and this tragedy unfolded because of their inaction and ineptitude.
All right, Theroux Vignarajah, thank you so much for your thoughts today.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. Thanks.
In a statement, City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby called the shooting unacceptable, but said, quote, "We stand firm in our ultimate recommendation to the judge that this case should be held in the juvenile system." Now, the statement does go on to say, quote, "My thoughts and prayers are with Timothy Reynolds' family as they continue to deal with this unfathomable loss." Well, the plea deal will go before a judge Thursday morning. The Mosby team also mentioned it made similar arguments in the case of a juvenile charge in the Memorial Day weekend murder at the Inner Harbor, and the court ultimately decided to keep that case in the adult system. We'll hear from both sides at the top of the hour.
New tonight, Baltimore City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises is already the highest paid school leader in the state, and a Project Baltimore investigation finds taxpayers are paying her a lot more than they realize. This is Santelises' employment contract. 19 pages lay out her responsibilities, expectations, and compensation. During the last school year, Santelises' base salary was more than $333,000. But every year, she gets a $9,600 car allowance. She also gets $53,300 in deferred compensation towards retirement, which is in addition to her state pension retirement. Adam Andrzejewski from OpenTheBooks.com has spent much of his career reading government contracts. He is stunned by what was uncovered.
It's milking taxpayers like dairy cows. We put a premium on those leaders locally that say they're going to educate our children. And so we need to hold, at the end of the day, we need to hold them accountable.
Well, tonight at 10, Project Baltimore reveals how your tax dollars are being used for other hidden costs in Dr. Santelises' contract.
Maryland's Republican governor says Donald Trump's social media posts about the governor of Virginia is racist. In this post on his Truth Social platform, the former president made a swipe at Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. Trump says Youngkin's last name sounds Chinese and that the governor would not have won last year's election without him. This comes as some say Youngkin could make a 2024 presidential bid. Here's a clip from CNN's State of the Union on what Governor Hogan had to say.
It's just more of the same from Donald Trump, insults and attacks, and that's one of the reasons why the party's in such bad shape.
Is it racist?
It is racist.
Hogan's wife and children are Korean American, and he has taken a strong stance against Asian hate while in office.
Major job cuts at Amazon just as the busy holiday season gets underway. We look at who is out of a job at the online retail giant.
Flu is on the rise, and healthcare providers say it is a season like no other. I'm Liz Bonas. We explain why and what you need to know if you're feeling sick. It is just ahead.
And this evening's commute is dry and chilly. Temperatures falling through the 40s, but going to be a much different story by tomorrow. I'll let you know where we could have some rain and even some snow. It's in my Weather Authority forecast.
For the second week in a row, flu cases, hospitalizations, and deaths have doubled in the United States. Medical reporter Liz Bonas explains why the sudden surge is raising alarm.
Hey there, everybody. The flu season appears to be off to one of the fastest starts in years, according to the CDC. Those tracking cases and hospitalizations also say there is a common symptom that may set in and give you an early warning sign that you are getting this illness. Even before the coughing, sneezing, and upper respiratory struggles take over, for many, a headache is a chief complaint as flu sets in.
It's a pretty strong headache in some cases, so it's a little bit unusual.
Dr. Zach Jenkins is a Cedarville University clinical pharmacist who says as hospital beds are filling up, it does appear the headache is linked to a viral illness.
It could be one of the flu strains that's circulating.
These early warning signs may be critical to point people to early intervention with antiviral medications such as Tamiflu. The CDC reports so far this season, more than 1,300 people in the U.S. have died from the flu. Nearly 3 million have already been ill from it. More than 20,000 people have been hospitalized, the highest levels at this time in the season in more than a decade. Why would it be rising faster than in previous years?
We had a lot of schools that were closed, and kids tend to be the biggest spreaders of a lot of these respiratory viruses.
That put us in sort of immunity debt, Dr. Jenkins says, and the only way to get some of that back now is through flu vaccinations, which the CDC reports are off to a slow start.
Now, the vaccine does appear to be a good match for this year's strains based on what we've seen so far from the Southern Hemisphere. Too soon right now to know for sure. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus. Now back to you.
It seems Jack Frost came early in the upper Midwest. This is a scene from Minneapolis where they received a Monday snow dusting. Similar weather is expected in the Midwest, Great Lakes, and New England in the coming days. Cold and cooler temperatures are expected across much of the continental U.S. this week, including the South, Jonathan.
Man, that time of year, Kai. And,
yes, sir.
You know, I was watching some football this weekend up in Buffalo. It was snowing. And now as close as just on the other side of the border from Carroll County, we've got some winter weather advisories in effect, southern Pennsylvania, all the way back through the Appalachians. Now, doesn't mean we're going to necessarily see much in the way of snow around here. I think we could see potentially a cold rain come through, and maybe up around Tawnytown. Say there could be a few wet snowflakes that mix in. This would be tomorrow afternoon after about, say, 3, 4 o'clock. Right now, the snow and the rain all the way from Dallas, where it's a cold rain, to Oklahoma City, where you're surrounded by some snow here. And there's even some winter storm warnings out for portions of, that's right, Oklahoma, all the way almost down into Texas. So this cold air that's feeding us, well, it's also feeding down into the Midwest and the Great Plains. Snow and rain mix with this deep south weather maker. It's a storm system on the southern stream of the jet stream that is going to continue to track its way over the southeastern U.S. and then make the curve up the coastline just down to our southeast. This time of year, it's hard to really hold in all of that below freezing cold air just due to the fact that we have the high sun angle. You know, the nights aren't as long as they typically would be, say, January, February. That's when the coldest weather of the year really occurs. If this were January, February, this would be a big snow for us. This time around, it's more so just cold rain. But highest elevations, again, since you're normally a little bit colder, you could see a bit of wet snow mixing in. I don't even think it's going to be anything like the pictures you saw there, but again, it would be kind of rain mixing with a few big fat flakes. 48 degrees right now. Winds are calm. No wind chill because the winds are calm, but when the winds do pick up, it does feel colder than it is. Mile 1 Tasicam starting to look a little grayer there as we begin to set the sun. Freeze warnings, those persist on the eastern shore for tonight as temperatures look to get below freezing again. Western side of the Chesapeake, well, we don't have freeze warnings because now the growing season is over. Temperatures barely making it to 50 this afternoon. Look at all that chill. 37 at Oklahoma City. Blue Norther here in Dallas is we're only at 43 for temperatures right now. It's 16 at Bismarck. So that cold air, it's got some staying power out to our west. Now for us, it's going to kind of give way as the rain moves in. Notice overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, temperatures do fall down to chilly levels down right at or below freezing. The clouds thicken up. Even by noontime, we'll see clouds, maybe a spritz, but I think the rain moves in after about 3 to 5 o'clock. Notice the yellows, the greens, maybe some pretty good rain coming down during the PM commute and well north and west in some of those heavier showers. I'm talking like maybe the extreme northwestern tip of Carroll County and up towards the state line. You see some of that blue. That could be a few of those wet, fat flakes mixing in. And then everybody's rain into the evening. And it looks like overnight the rain tapers off. Early risers on Wednesday could see a leftover shower, then that tapers. And we're stuck with, well, probably 50s on Wednesday. Not a bad day there, but then colder air sets up once again. In terms of rain totals, there could be a ½ inch, maybe an inch of rain. So it's a pretty good rain coming down here Tuesday late into early Wednesday. Wednesday clouds, some sun, 55, and all the way through the Ravens game below average. Highs only in the 40s, lows dropping back down to below freezing.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. We're trending right now with cold temperatures coming into the region. The Waterfront Partnership says it's the perfect time to take advantage of all the attractions downtown. Be More Lifestyle host Mark Clark went to the Inner Harbor to the ice rink to check it out and has this story.
And I'm joined by Melody Thomas. It's the Waterfront Partnership. We got a lot going on this season. So excited. Look how beautiful it is out here.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we're at the Inner Harbor Ice Rink. We just kicked off our season yesterday. We'll be open 7 days a week plus holidays. And it's just one of many things happening for our Winter on the Waterfront program this year.
So now it's getting colder. That's good news, right? We can now maintain the ice.
Absolutely. It's been a little bit wet, so with the warmer weathers, but now that it's finally cold, we're going to have the rink open 7 days a week.
And tell us about some of the other things that are going on down here.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of our winter waterfront program, we're going to have a holiday makers market. We'll have a tree lighting. We've got the parade of boats coming up. Tons of programming.
Awesome. It's a great time for the family, a great time for people who are visiting. Take advantage. And matter of fact, let's go ahead. We're going onto the ice. Let's go.
You got it. Bend your knees, yeah?
Mark did pretty good there, Mark. Great job. Coming up at 5 o'clock, a lawsuit against Baltimore City schools could create change across the country. A look at the national impact of Baltimore parents' claims the school system is failing their kids. Americans are losing faith that inflation will calm down anytime soon. Why that sentiment could affect your wallet. Well, a consumer alert for you right now. Americans expect inflation to stick around, fearing high gas prices the most. The New York Federal Reserve says that Americans believe inflation will hit 5.9% a year from now, up from the 5.4% they projected in September. That's a problem, according to the New York Fed. The higher the inflation, the more likely it is that the Feds will raise rates. Twitter's new owner has reportedly cut more jobs, including misinformation moderators. The company has relied on contractors to enforce rules against harmful content. But now, as the Associated Press reports, some have been fired over the weekend. Twitter has not shared details, but an expert out of UCLA estimates at least 3,000 contract workers lost their jobs. Elon Musk said he would loosen speech restrictions when he took over Twitter. Amazon is reportedly set to cut thousands of jobs. According to a report, most of the 10,000 workers will come from its corporate workforce. If the company follows through, it would be the biggest contraction of workforce in Amazon's history. Industry experts say this marks an unexpected turnaround for the tech giant, which had increased its workforce by 5% over the last year to more than 1.5 million employees. Apple and the maker of Fortnite are headed to an appeals court today. Epic Games first filed an antitrust lawsuit in 2020 to try and break up Apple's exclusive control over the iPhone App Store. Now, that control lets Apple get a cut when users buy digital services that other companies sell. It could take the appeals court 6 months to make a ruling. Experts say it's likely the losing side will try to take up their fight up to the Supreme Court, extending the process even longer. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, they say they feel betrayed by the justice system. The frustration from the family of a man killed in a confrontation with a squeegee kid. And will the city crack down on illegal dirt bikes? The growing concerns after a man was shot at by bikers over the weekend. A plea deal in the case of a squeegee kid accused of killing a man who had a baseball bat. Why the victim's family says they're outraged with the possible punishment.
A dirt biker shooting at a man in Harbor East. We're pressing city leaders on what's being done to stop lawlessness in the city.
Just how much will the city council's pension plan cost taxpayers if signed into law? We add up the numbers and look into the major financial burden quicker pensions could create.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
My niece and nephew are devastated at the loss of their father. This was a senseless murder. It did not have to happen. And we are being further victimized by the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office.
In a city in crisis, a plea deal in the case of a squeegee kid who allegedly shot and killed a Baltimore man who had a baseball bat. The family of Timothy Reynolds is outraged with the deal that they say they knew nothing about before it was offered.
Reynolds was killed in July during a confrontation with a group of squeegee kids. Police say Reynolds approached the kids with a bat and swung it at them. He did not hit any of them. One of the kids then reportedly threw a rock, hitting Reynolds in the head. Reynolds was then shot 5 times and killed. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
I'm Kai Jackson. We have team coverage of the plea deal tonight. Alexa Ashwell is pressing city leaders on whether strict enforcement of laws on the books could have prevented the situation from happening. And Jeff Abel is hearing from attorneys representing the accused shooter, who also spoke out in a news conference that wrapped up less than an hour ago.
But first, our coverage begins with Mackenzie Frost, who has more on the Reynolds family's reaction to that plea deal they say came as a complete surprise. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary and Kai, the family of Timothy Reynolds says that the city is failing them, not just because of this latest news with the plea agreement, but because of the squeegee kid issue altogether. And now they're calling on the city state's attorney, Marilyn Mosby, to recuse herself from this case. July 7th, 2022, the day that changed two families' lives forever.
Our family is absolutely devastated.
Timothy Reynolds gunned down at the intersection of Light and Conway, right near Baltimore's Inner Harbor. Tavon Scott, who was 14 years old at the time, arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Scott's family and attorneys calling the shooting a textbook self-defense, since Reynolds had a baseball bat in his hand.
I think ultimately the facts are going to show that this is a case of what we call perfect self-defense.
Now, with a manslaughter plea offer on the table, the Reynolds family is speaking up and pushing back.
And so now the fact that he's saying it's manslaughter, which one is it? Perfect self-defense or manslaughter? It's murder.
And now?
I've kept private this whole time, and because I trusted the process.
Timothy's widow, Shannon Reynolds, is breaking her silence in an emotional statement about learning the case would be moved to juvenile court and the suspect would no longer be facing first-degree murder charges.
I was blindsided Friday when I spoke and I heard that the state, and it's Mosby, offering a plea deal to Tavon Scott, who shot my husband point blank 5 times while he was walking away. We are devastated. My family is devastated.
The Reynolds family frustrated. They say Mosby's office left them out of the conversation surrounding a plea deal, and they want change.
She never contacted the family. I want justice for Tim, and I need everyone's help. Mosby should recuse herself.
At the heart of the argument, 2 pieces of video the family just watched Monday morning with police. They say the video shows Tim Reynolds walking away and the suspect grabbing a gun. That video has yet to be made public. And while the case moves forward, Tim's family says the city could have prevented the entire situation from happening. Do you put any responsibility or blame on city leaders for not enforcing some of the laws dealing with squeegee kids before this incident happened?
For the safety of the squeegee kids and the public, the city should have taken a stand and enforced the law. They failed everyone. They failed us, they failed the defendant, they failed the city, and they continue to do that.
Fast forward 4 months, Light and Conway returns to daily life. Police sitting at the corner watching while squeegee kids are often seen at the place where 2 families' lives forever changed. Now, there is another hearing scheduled for Thursday morning. That's when we expect the judge to either accept or reject that plea deal. Live in Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby released a statement in response to the family's press conference tonight, saying in part, while the actions of this juvenile are wholly unacceptable and inexcusable, we stand firm in our ultimate recommendation. There are no winners in this tragic incident, and I am disheartened by the pain and anguish it has caused in our community.
That brings us to our question of the day. Should Marilyn Mosby recuse herself from the squeegee murder case? So far, 96% of those who voted say yes. We'd like to hear what you think. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Well, last hour, Thoru Vignarajah, who is serving as the Reynolds family spokesperson, joined us in studio. Here are his thoughts on why he believes Marilyn Mosby failed to handle the case properly.
This is such a tragedy for a young man to be charged with such a serious crime, and his age ought to be a factor at sentencing. It ought to be a mitigating circumstance that the judge considers. But to issue a plea deal without ever telling the victim, this is not the first time Marilyn Mosby has done this. She is making a habit of abdicating her responsibility to the family, to the citizens, and she is at this point just taking care of her own legacy and her own friends.
Response to the Reynolds family news conference, the attorneys representing the teenager accused in this case and the teen's mother are also speaking out. Fox 45's Jeff Abel was there and brings us up to date. Jeff?
Well, attorneys for the teenage murder suspect made their case a few moments ago why the homicide that happened here at Light and Conway is one for the juvenile courts, they say, not the adult court. At a news conference a few moments ago that just wrapped up, his attorneys continue to characterize this case as one of a frightened teen who took action only after being threatened. In fact, here's how they described what happened here at Light and Conway.
The man said that he was going to kill these children. He said, he used expletives. He said, I'm going to kill your effing A's. So I don't care what a video shows. What we saw in the video was the man swinging his bat. What we saw from the information that we received was that the man made contact with at least a child, struck him twice, and he was shot in return.
As you know, if indeed the judge accepts this plea deal, then the teenage suspect will be committed to juvenile court, and he could be there at least until he's 21 years old. We are live downtown. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Well, along with squeegeeing, dirt bikes remain a problem in the city. Alexa Ashwell continues our team coverage today, questioning the mayor and commissioner about the laws in place and enforcement of them. Alexa?
Yes, Mary, we asked the commissioner and the mayor about the enforcement of laws surrounding squeegeeing as well as the use of dirt bikes here in the city. Some believe both contributing to the overall lawlessness here in the city. We'll start with the Reynolds case. We did ask the mayor about that. The mayor just 2 blocks away when the Reynolds family gathered earlier this morning. He answered to their stance. As you heard from Mackenzie, their loved ones, they believe their loved one's death could have been prevented had the laws surrounding squeegeeing been fully enforced. It's a question Fox 45 News has been asking since the homicide back in July. Take a listen. Do you dispute that?
Well, I think, Alexa, thank you for your question. I think that the data disputes that, right? When you see the amount of arrests that our police department has made for guns, when you see the record amount of gun arrests and gun seizures that they've made in the city this year, when you see the amount of folks involved in squeegee work who went to criminal behavior that they've arrested, the data would say something else different than that.
Sorry, technical difficulty. The mayor also not wanting to speak to specifics of the case. As we know, we heard from Mackenzie as well as Jeff Abel. We do have that hearing that's coming up here.
And Alexa, you were also able to talk with the police commissioner and the mayor about another incident involving a suspect on a dirt bike over the weekend. Happened Saturday in Harbor East. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, Mary, just this past weekend, the police department responding to reports of shots fired in Harbor East. We do have some cell phone video of that. Here they say one rider opened fire on a man who threw a bag of leaves at them. Now, no one was hurt. The city recently passing a law, you may recall, that stiffens penalties for street racing and the riding of dirt bikes in the city. Today, we also asked about enforcement. Take a listen.
Is BPD empowered to make those arrests of dirt bike riders?
BPD is empowered to make arrests on anybody who commits any kind of crime. Anybody who commits a crime, that's what we do. We enforce criminal law. And so the answer to that is yes. We always have. We always will.
Dirt bikes are a problem in cities around the country, Alexa. You have to understand that they're going to continue to deal with them appropriately. We're also working with folks like B360s to deal with it in a proper way. It's a part of the culture in the city now. But it doesn't matter if they were on a dirt bike or on a pedal bike. They had an illegal gun.
The mayor then taking the conversation to the issue of guns and the prevalence he says they have in the city still today. As for the case in Harbor East, no arrests have been made. Reporting live outside police headquarters, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Fox 45 News sent a question to city council members stating you recently passed a bill strengthening the penalties for dirt bike riders who violate the law. Are you satisfied with BPD's enforcement of this law? So far, we have not heard back.
Your political power shrinks when your population shrinks. So maybe the city should take a page from the federal and state level and tie the number of city council members to population.
That was a Fox 45 commentator weighing in on Baltimore's 15-member city council last year. Tonight, we're following efforts by some council members to shorten the amount of time for them to qualify for a lifetime pension. If it becomes law, it's an issue that could cost Baltimore City's shrinking tax base big bucks for generations to come. Fox 45's Amy Simpson is live right now with more on what she's learning. Amy?
Yeah, so Kai, as you may remember, this proposal is asking for the city council's pension eligibility to be shortened from 12 years down to just 8 years. And this conversation all comes after voters just passed Question K on Election Day last week, establishing those future term limits for elected officials. Some inside City Hall are questioning if the city can afford this change to pension eligibility requirements and why there's a rush to pass this proposal right now. A few members of City Council have said they do not support this pension plan, and they've abstained from voting on the issue that would impact them directly. CEO of OpenTheBooks.com tells Fox 45 News that these pensions do come with a big price tag.
We crunched the numbers. If they live from age 50 to life expectancy with cost of living increases to their lifetime pension, they'll receive about $500,000. It's really good to vote yourself benefits from the public trough, and it raises real questions of self-dealing.
And Amy, where does this proposal stand and what's next?
Kai, so this proposal is headed for a third reading at City Hall sometime in the near future, though an exact date has not been set on any of council's public agendas at this time. Just last week, Fox 45 asking Mayor Brandon Scott if he would sign this proposal if it passes City Hall, City Council, that is, and he told us he had not yet looked through that proposal. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. And that brings us to our other question of the day. Do you believe it's fair for first responders to wait 25 years for a city pension while council members wait 8? So far, 97% of people who voted say no. We want to hear what you think. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
3 students killed, 2 more injured on the University of Virginia campus. What we're learning tonight with a suspect in custody. Civil rights lawyer Ben Crump playing a critical role in the lawsuit against Baltimore City schools, how his involvement could impact the city's grade-changing controversy.
Former President Donald Trump is about to make his big announcement. I'm Atrell Nashar outside Mar-a-Lago with why some who want him to run for president the most are Democrats.
And as nearby as just over the Pennsylvania border, winter weather advisories. I'm going to let you know if that's going to mean some snow around here for us, too. My Tuesday forecast coming up in my Weather Authority forecast. Stick around.
In vote 2022 tonight, control of the House of Representatives is down to 18 races still being counted, with 13 considered toss-ups. Democrats clinched the Senate at 50, while Republicans won 49 seats. Republicans are currently closer to gaining a majority in the House, winning 212 seats over Democrats' 203. The GOP needs 218 seats for a majority, but it will likely take days for the final results. After Republican efforts to sweep control of Congress did not pan out, some Republicans are pointing fingers at former President Trump. It comes as Trump is expected to announce a third run for the White House tomorrow. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar has details.
The future of the Republican Party may be determined by what happens behind me at Mar-a-Lago in the next 48 hours. Former President Trump is expected to announce that he is again running for president in 2024, despite public warnings and private pleas from some in his own party who fear that another Trump run would be another Republican loss.
Thank you, Pennsylvania.
It was a strategy many called risky, a gamble, even meddling. Democrats propping up far-right, election-denying, Trump-backed candidates in Republican primaries, betting it would attract independents and moderate Republicans to vote blue. It paid off. Every one of those candidates who made it on the November ballot lost, like in Michigan's 3rd congressional district.
Our positive unifying message is what won the day.
Democratic Congresswoman-elect Hillary Scholten beating Trump-backed John Gibbs by 13 points in a district that's elected Republican congressmen for the past 30 years.
I absolutely think exposing the extremism in today's Republican Party has to be done.
Scholten emphasizes she wasn't involved in the DCCC ad spending, which Democrats and Republicans alike have called risky and unethical.
I'm not a big fan of spending money on other candidates and messing around, I will admit that.
Republicans' exposure to Trump, some Republicans like Maryland Governor Larry Hogan say, only helps Democrats.
Donald Trump, it kept saying, we're going to be winning so much, we'll get tired of winning. I'm tired of losing. I mean, that's all he's done.
Now, there are certainly still some who see Trump as more of an asset than a liability, but after he's being blamed for weighing down many GOP candidates in the midterms, it seems Democrats are the most hopeful for a Trump run because it could give them a boost in future elections. But remember, Trump's future as the leader of the Republican Party is not guaranteed yet. Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis, former Vice President Mike Pence are also expected to announce their runs for president, and when they do, no doubt they'll be pressured to come clean about how they feel about the man who's still got a grip on the GOP. In Palm Beach, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
Governor Larry Hogan says Donald Trump's social media post about the governor of Virginia is racist. In a post on his Truth Social platform, the former president made a swipe at Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. Trump says Youngkin's last name sounds Chinese and that the governor would not have won last year's election without him. Now, the post comes as some say Youngkin could make a 2024 presidential bid. In an interview with CNN, Governor Larry Hogan spoke out against Trump.
It's just more of the same from Donald Trump, insults and attacks, and that's one of the reasons why the party's in such bad shape.
Is it racist?
It is racist.
Hogan's wife and children are Korean American, and he has taken a strong stance against Asian hate while in office.
Well, the snow getting closer and closer to Baltimore. This time around, just missing us by a couple of counties probably, but there are winter weather advisories that are north and west of Carroll County up into portions of Pennsylvania, New York State, all the way down the Appalachians, in fact. And it's due to this weather maker right here. You can see, again, right around Oklahoma City, winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings as well. A lot of the blues and the greens and the reds. Some of that's rain mixing with some heavy snow up around Wichita, Kansas. And again, that's our next weather maker. The chilly air, at least for now, is here. And the storm track that this is expected to take way down towards the Gulf Coast and then traipsing its way towards the Atlantic during the winter time when we have the extremely cold air, low sun angle, and, that cold air that kind of builds and builds. Well, yes, typically we would see out of this type of storm track a snowstorm. But for us this time of year, with that higher sun angle and the temperature starting off a little warmer, I don't think we're going to see it. It's just going to be a cold rain. But some of that snow potentially, as it streaks its way north and west and really falls over Pennsylvania and New York, some of it may mix in the form of just a couple of wet flakes well north and west up towards the state line tomorrow. Either way, It's going to be kind of an ugly afternoon, evening tomorrow. You're going to need the heavy jackets, and it's going to feel kind of wintry. Mile 1 Taos Cam, now it's 46. Winds variable at 3, even a little wind chill in the mid-40s. Eastern Shore, the growing season's still going here. It hasn't been as cold as everyone else, so a freeze warning in effect for you folks tonight. Otherwise, the temperatures in the low to mid-40s right now. Jackets out. They're going to stay out. Look at this. Dallas, Oklahoma City, upper 30s, low 40s right now. 30 at Omaha, teens in Billings. All of that cold has been kind of bleeding eastbound and feeding our chilly weather as of late. High temperatures only getting to 50 this afternoon. Should be at 58 for an average high. Overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, a mix of clouds and stars. I think those clouds thicken overnight. We are just above freezing as this stuff moves in tomorrow. 30s to around 40, probably low to mid 40s most neighborhoods, except north and west may be stuck in the upper 30s tomorrow. Notice the rain and that blue, that's snow. Look at how close it gets, maybe clipping the extreme northwestern tip of Carroll County by about 7:15 p.m., at least briefly, before we go back to all rain. And then this ends after midnight tomorrow evening. Does not look like any accumulation here. It's just wet roads, kind of wet everything, with about a ½ inch to an inch of rain. We need some rain, so that's good, but unfortunately it could mess up the tail end of tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening's commute. Again, no snow accumulation problems here. All tapers off by Wednesday morning, 55 for a high there. Look at that chill as we head all the way into our Ravens weekend on Sunday.
The governor to be announcing his next steps as he transitions to power. The latest on Wes Moore's preparations to lead Maryland. Students are getting left behind in school systems across the nation. The impact a lawsuit against Baltimore City schools could have on students nationwide. A federal abortion bill seems impossible. The warning from President Biden on reproductive rights after the midterms. Making headlines today, President Biden warning it's unlikely he will be able to pass a bill guaranteeing a national right to abortion. Before the midterms, the president promised codifying abortion rights would be a top priority if Democrats retain control of the House and Senate. The president now saying with the Republicans likely to win the House, any nationwide abortion bill will be impossible to pass.
I don't think they can expect much of anything other than we're going to maintain our positions. I don't think there's enough votes to codify.
Democrats did perform stronger than expected in the midterms, with many crediting the issue of abortion rights drawing people to the polls. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court has cleared the way for the January 6th committee to get the leader of the Arizona Republican Party's phone records. The court rejecting GOP State Chair Kelly Ward's request to stop the records from being turned over to the committee. Ward has said her First Amendment rights would be violated if investigators were able to learn who she spoke with while trying to challenge former President Donald Trump's election defeat. 3 football players dead, 2 other students injured, a suspect, also a student, now in custody. The latest on the mass shooting at the University of Virginia.
The lawsuit, the lawyer, and the legal implications. I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C. A new legal tool that could help parents take on school districts.
Developing right now, a mass shooting at the University of Virginia.
That's right. The school was on lockdown for 12 hours last night after 5 people were shot, 3 of them students, and they were killed, all part of the football team. Now police have a suspect in custody. He, too, is a student.
Joy Wang from our Sinclair sister station in Washington, D.C. is live from the University of Virginia grounds tonight with the latest on the shooting. Joy?
Where I'm standing right now, this road just outside the garage where officials say all of this happened, it's been closed for a really long time until just a couple hours ago. But what I want to bring attention to is a conversation I had with a football player. It was a few hours after the press conference earlier this morning, and he came up to me while I was trying to write and put this story together. And he said he wanted to make sure everyone knew that the 3 football players who died were incredible people. They were selfless human beings. They always put other people first, and they were exactly the team members that he always wanted.
Pardon me.
This was the moment University Police Chief Tim Longo, in front of university leaders and a packed room of journalists, learned the suspect was in custody.
We just received information the suspect is in custody.
An emotional moment and sigh of relief after the University of Virginia campus was on lockdown for 12 hours as police searched for former UVA football player, 22-year-old Christopher Darnell Jones Jr., the suspected shooter.
The shootings occurred on a bus full of students returning from a field trip. 3 of the victims did not survive.
For hours, you could see the bus behind the state police crime scene truck as detectives gathered evidence. It was supposed to be a fun trip to D.C., a class field trip to see a play. But after they returned, police say Devin Chandler from Virginia Beach and Deshaun Perry from Miami, Florida, were shot and killed.
Where they had been for the day, enjoying a school activity, having a meal together, and coming back to our grounds, and someone amongst them chose to do an act of violence.
Lavelle Davis Jr. from Ridgeville, South Carolina, was taken to the hospital and later died. 2 other students were injured.
My heart is broken for the victims and their families and for all those who knew and loved them, and they are all in my prayers.
But were there warning signs? University police said Jones was brought to the attention of the threat assessment team at the Office of Student Affairs this fall.
They received information that Mr. Jones had made a comment about possessing a gun to a person that was unaffiliated with the university.
Chief Longo says the report didn't come with threats. Plus, Student Affairs followed up with a roommate who didn't see a gun. Then there were reports of a hazing incident. That case, police say, was also closed because witnesses wouldn't cooperate.
But through the course of the threat assessment team's investigation, we learned of a prior criminal incident involving a concealed weapon violation that occurred outside the city of Charlottesville in February of 2021.
Now, Jones is facing more charges, 3 counts of second-degree murder and 3 counts of using a handgun in the commission of a felony.
Henrico police saying that they arrested Jones just before 11 o'clock this morning. And while this scene is no longer active, the investigation very much is. Live in Charlottesville, Joy Wang, Fox 45 News.
In a city in crisis, a suspect stands down after a standoff involving Baltimore police, SWAT teams, and crisis negotiators in Northeast Baltimore. Roads near the standoff included Sinclair Lane, and they were shut down during the response. 2 schools in the area, Archbishop Curley High and Sinclair Lane Elementary, had to close for the day. Police said the suspect left the location without incident. The standoff began at 8:30 last night.
A shooting from over the weekend now being investigated as a homicide. Just after 6 last night, police responded to a scene on North Carey Street near West North Avenue. A block away from the original scene, they found a man who had crashed his car and been shot multiple times. The 43-year-old victim was taken to the hospital. Police say he's died from those injuries. Anybody with information should contact Baltimore police. Well, a building evacuated during a garage fire in northwest Baltimore. According to city officials, the fire broke out just before 3 this afternoon on West Cold Spring Lane near Wabash Avenue. Video from the scene posted online shows thick smoke rising from the side of the fire. The Baltimore City Fire Union said the hazmat team was also called to the scene. Firefighters say the bulk of the fire has been put out.
Maryland's Governor-elect Wes Moore is assembling his administration ahead of the January inauguration. Not only as a new governor, but as a Democrat, there is a lot of turnover expected among the appointed positions that Republican Governor Larry Hogan previously had. Well, today, Moore named several people joining his staff. At the top of his list is Fagan Harris, who will become chief of staff. Harris currently leads a nonprofit in Baltimore and will be in his first job in government.
Our administration will look like the state of Maryland. That I want for everyone around the state of Maryland, when you look at all of our, eventually the full cabinet and agency heads, et cetera, that they can look up at the administration and say that they see themselves, that they know their voice is going to be heard.
Others named today included Legislative Officer, Budget Secretary, Chief Counsel, and Appointment Secretary. They will work mostly behind the scenes. Well, now 6 days after the election, and mail-in ballots continue to be counted in Anne Arundel County. This evening, we're still waiting for results to be posted from Tuesday's canvass. In the race for Anne Arundel County Executive, the most recent results show Republican Jessica Hare's lead is shrinking, now less than 6,000 votes ahead of incumbent Democrat Stuart Pittman. On Friday, Pittman's campaign said it was more confident in its path to re-election. A total of some 50,000 mail-in ballots were returned by Anne Arundel County voters. A crisis in the classroom as a lawsuit moves forward in Baltimore alleging the school system has failed students. It could become a model for parents across the country. Angela Brown looks at the potential national impact.
The lawsuit in Baltimore could really happen anywhere because it started with parents suing Baltimore City Public Schools for misusing taxpayer dollars. A judge dealing Baltimore City Schools a blow, ruling the lawsuit can move forward. The city and the school system may have to hand over evidence related to the use of taxpayer dollars. This lawsuit gaining national attention because of who is on the case. A civil rights lawyer some call America's Black Attorney General. Civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump, the go-to lawyer for many black families looking for justice like George Floyd.
If the Demetrius don't get it,
Crump now moving forward with a lawsuit taking on Baltimore City Schools he believes is failing black and brown students.
You want to believe when a young person graduates with their high school diploma that means they're not illiterate, but as many young people who have come before us in this lawsuit, that is simply not the case.
Here's a lawsuit filed by Baltimore City parents alleging Baltimore City Schools misused tax dollars, shortchanging students already behind. Baltimore City Schools tried to block this lawsuit, a judge denying that request.
Hopefully, with this lawsuit, we can get it right. And that way, it can help make not just Baltimore better, but it can help make cities across America better.
Our Sinclair reporters uncovering the breakdown in education coast to coast. Just days ago, our team in Rochester, New York, reporting over 40% of RCSD students in K through 8 are 3 or more grade levels behind in reading and math.
This translates not into percentages, this translates into actual babies, children, students. These are people in our community.
Sinclair reporters in Charleston, South Carolina, uncovering in July 51% of students at grades K through 8 in Charleston County schools are reading below grade level. Our team in Tulsa, Oklahoma, discovering only 16% of TPS students are proficient in math. And then there's Baltimore. Our Project Baltimore team finding hundreds of failing students, including a story going viral about a high school student passing only 3 classes in 4 years, yet ranking near the top half of his class with a 0.13 GPA. We talked to his mother.
He didn't fail, the school failed him.
The lawsuit against Baltimore City Schools could just be the beginning, and that's what Ben Crump is banking on.
If you don't get a quality education, oftentimes you find yourself a victim of the school-to-prison pipeline.
A spokesperson for Baltimore City Schools issued a statement regarding this lawsuit, saying it remains steadfastly dedicated to providing a quality education to all students and will let this matter of law be decided in a court of law. I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C.
New tonight, Baltimore City Schools CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises is already the highest paid school leader in the state. And Project Baltimore investigation finds taxpayers are paying her a lot more than they may realize. This is Santelises' employment contract. 19 pages lay out her responsibilities, expectations, and compensation. During the last school year, Santelises' base salary was more than $333,000. But every year, she gets a $9,600 car allowance. She also gets $53,300 in deferred compensation towards retirement, which is in addition to her state pension retirement. Adam Andrzejewski from OpenTheBooks.com has spent much of his career reading government contracts and is stunned by what was uncovered.
It's milking taxpayers like dairy cows. We put a premium on those leaders locally that say they're going to educate our children. And so we need to hold, at the end of the day, we need to hold them accountable.
Well, tonight at 10, Project Baltimore reveals how your tax dollars are being used for other hidden costs in Dr. Santelises' contract.
Mobile sports betting could be coming to Maryland in time for Thanksgiving. On Wednesday, the Sports Wagering Application Review Commission will consider awarding licenses to 10 mobile sports wagering firms. Businesses awarded licenses will have to meet the state's operational requirements, so it's unlikely that they are able to start taking bets immediately, but the mobile sports books could open soon after that. Governor Hogan celebrated the step toward betting. In a tweet, the governor said he was disappointed in the delays to sports betting the state had seen over the past year and is excited to bring mobile betting to Maryland. The money the state makes from mobile betting is earmarked to go towards public schools. Buying food near its sell-by date could save you money, but is it safe for Thanksgiving dinner? Getting answers from a food expert about cutting costs.
Conservatives finding success in school board races, flipping districts from blue to red from coast to coast. I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington.
And our Future Scan computer model putting out some cold rain by tomorrow afternoon's commute, but there's some blue on the map too. That's some wet snow. I'll let you know where the possibilities of that are greatest. Timing it out hour by hour. Up next, the My Weather Authority forecast.
The school board race in Loudoun County, Virginia, that's just south of D.C., is likely headed for a recount. A conservative mother upset over education policies is on a mission to flip the seat. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins takes a look at how recent school board races played out across the country.
Some of the hardest fought races last Tuesday were for seats on school boards across the country. While a red wave didn't hit congressional races, many local candidates did find success, flipping at least 9 districts from blue to red nationwide in places like Michigan, Maryland, North Carolina, and Florida. Candidates inspired to run over hot-button issues like COVID policies and what critics call woke curriculums.
It is failed leadership, and it is time for us as a community to turn this ship around.
Baltimore City at the center of a high-profile civil rights lawsuit filed by civil rights attorney Ben Crump, elected their first school board members. Previous positions were mayor appointed.
There is essentially a generation of children in Baltimore who are unable to function in society because they cannot read or write.
In Dearborn, Michigan, a highly contentious race focused on the board's banning of 7 books for sexually explicit and LGBTQ content. In Virginia, where there was a heated school board race in Loudoun County, Republican Glenn Youngkin overhauling school curriculum, overruling his Democratic predecessor's plan for teaching history and social science.
I want us to teach all of our history in Virginia, the good and the bad.
The new plan includes teaching kindergartners about patriotism, 4th graders about George Washington, and 11th graders about Christopher Columbus and the enslavement of Africans. Nearly a week after Election Day, and we're still waiting on a number of too close to call races across the country, with some now heading for recounts. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Looking ahead, temperatures dip in Anne Arundel County, and they're preparing to open warming centers there. The Anne Arundel County Police Department says that they will have a district station will have a lobby and community room, and it will be open 24/7. Rooms at the senior center will open from 8:30 in the morning until 4 o'clock. Anyone who needs a shelter or special accommodations to deal with the cold can call the crisis warm line at 410-768-5522. Some good news, and you're familiar with that area. Obviously, Jonathan, you and your family live down there, and it's good that they're going to have them open, but it's also a sign of the times, isn't it?
Yeah, as chilly as it's going to be everywhere. I mean, unseasonably so, actually, about 10 degrees below average. Temperatures at 50 today. We may only make the 40s with a chilling rain tomorrow. So cold enough, in fact, that we've got winter weather advisories just up and over the state border. You hop over the Mason-Dixon line from Carroll County, and in Pennsylvania, we, in fact, have winter weather advisories in these purple areas that go all the way up into central and eastern New York, and then all the way down the spine of the Appalachians through Asheville, and then down just north and west of Greenville. And then you move your way down to the south and west. It's all because of this weather maker that right now it's got winter storm warnings in the northwestern suburbs of Oklahoma City with cold rain and snow falling here. All of that will continue to translate its way north and east as our next weather maker. Chilly weather for now with some beautiful sunny skies today, but highs only at 50 degrees. Again, we should be closer to 60, so you feel the chill. At least no rain or anything else today, but tomorrow that changes as this Gulf Coast hugging storm system makes the move east and eventually northeast bound. It will come close enough, it will evict the coldest of the air, and due to the fact that it's still November, gonna have a hard time holding on to that cold air. But some of the very highest elevations north and west, especially as you get up into Pennsylvania and New York, you could get accumulating snow. But north and west here in Maryland, north and west of Baltimore, as you get up towards, say, Tawnytown and those usual suspects, you know, Manchester, those areas could be a cold rain mixing with a few wet flakes. Would not be surprised to see that tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, right around sunset. Should not accumulate, but nonetheless, don't be surprised if that does happen. Mile 1, Towson Cam, it's 46. Winds variable at 3 miles an hour. Humidity 40%. Even a little bit of a wind chill in the mid-40s. In fact, freeze warnings where the growing season's still going on the eastern shore. That should put an end to it tonight for the entire area. Temperature at 39 already at Westminster, 46 here in Baltimore, and the cold goes all the way into the Midwest. Look at that, Oklahoma City, 37, Omaha, 30. That cold air has been feeding in, and that's going to give us a cold rain tomorrow. Not as cold as the snowy weather out west, but nonetheless, take a look. Overnight tonight, down to about 30. Under a little bit of an increase in clouds, at least over what we've seen. And then maybe a shower through noontime tomorrow, but especially tomorrow afternoon, it gets wet. Look at that 5 p.m., not a nice p.m. commute. Some heavier rain by 7:15. And then some of that heavy rain, that's where that best threat or chance of a few wet flakes could be well north and west. That disappears in the blue by about 9:45. We go back to the rain, and it's just kind of a soaking rain through just after midnight tomorrow night, and then that's out of here. And I think Wednesday is a sunnier and somewhat milder day. Still not an average, though. About a ½ inch to an inch of rain in total. Could use the rain, and it looks like, unfortunately, it's going to impinge on the p.m. commute. Wednesday morning commute, much better. Clouds, some sun, 55 there. Now look at that chill. Highs only in the 40s. Should be again in the mid to upper 50s. Highs in the 40s, lows well into the 20s, near 30 all the way through the Ravens game on Sunday.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Coming up at 6 o'clock on Fox 45, continuing coverage of a plea deal in the shooting death of Tim Reynolds. His family and the state's attorney for the squeegee kid accused in the shooting speak out. And buying food near the expiration date cuts costs. But we talk with an expert about how you can save money on Thanksgiving dinner and stay safe at the same time. With prices up this holiday season, it could be expensive to get all the ingredients you need for that big Thanksgiving dinner. Fox 45's Patrice Sanders spoke with a dietitian asking if it's safe to cut costs by buying food earmarked for expiration.
As you think about your holiday meal coming up, you're probably also thinking about the best way to reduce the costs for that turkey and all the fixings. Grocery prices are sky high, and some people are turning to foods that have been reduced in price because they're close to their expiration date. But are those products safe to eat? What do we need to know about the best if used by or sell by dates? Here's what Madison Friel, a registered dietitian for the GBMC Comprehensive Obesity Management Program, had to say.
So let's clear those up a little bit. If a product has a sell-by date, this is actually set by the retailer rather than the manufacturer. So these dates are helpful to get the older products off the shelf first. But if it has a best by or a used by date, these are really estimates as to when that product is going to reach its peak quality or peak freshness.
So peak freshness doesn't necessarily mean it's bad or spoiled the next day. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. So then it's going to be up to your discretion. You usually can use products beyond that date, but it will likely be compromised in terms of taste, texture, or possibly color.
She says if you need more information or if you have questions about food you might have in your pantry, you can use the Food Keeper app, which was created by the USDA to answer those types of questions. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
All right, maybe doing a little yard cleanup this weekend, getting some of the rest of those leaves up before the weather gets real cold. Well, on our GFS or American Future Scan computer model, it does stay chilly around here. Highs only in the 40s for Friday, but just a patchy cloud. Saturday looking like a dry day, and Sunday too for the Ravens game. Again, temperatures in the 40s, which is about 10 degrees below average, but at least we will have some sunshine. So on Friday, clouds and some sun, 47, 42 on Saturday. It's cold still. And then recovery a little bit on Sunday for the Ravens game with temperatures at 49, but you're still going to need some jackets at M&T Bank Stadium.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock, the city state's attorney's office responds after criticism of a plea deal reached in the case of a squeegee kid accused of killing a driver near the Inner Harbor over the summer. Both sides speak out. Crunching the numbers on the cost of the city council's rush to push through pension plan reforms that will allow them to get a pension faster. Coming up, the cost to you at 6.
State investigators released police video of a pursuit that ended with the death of a 17-year-old in Baltimore. The key details still missing tonight. Word of a plea deal for a squeegee kid charged for shooting and killing a Baltimore driver is out. We have reaction from the family of Timothy Reynolds and the lawyers for the 15-year-old charged. And 3 University of Virginia football players shot and killed overnight on campus. The suspect, a former teammate. Coming up, why the alleged gunman was previously investigated.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Fox 45 News at 6 starts right now with the exclusive Fox Track Your Baltimore Minute.
The ongoing issue of dirt bikes and the enforcement of removing those illegally riding throughout the city. The city recently passing a law that stiffens penalties for street racing and the riding of dirt bikes in the city, but some people saying it's simply not enough.
Ultimately, what's going to happen is until someone gets hurt, they're not going to change the policy. They didn't come up with a squeegee collaborative to change policy about squeegee kids until someone actually got killed.
So the real question is, why does a part-time position, elected position, deserve a lifetime pension, much less to shorten the rules?
For a city with a shrinking population and tax base, and an elected council with 15 members at any one time, Adam Andrzejewski indicates pensions for council members will cost the city a pretty penny.
The family of Timothy Reynolds frustrated with this news of a plea deal today.
She never contacted the family this whole time, and she's supposed to do that. Mosby should recuse herself.
The man said that he was going to kill these children. He said, he used expletives. He said, I'm going to kill your effing A's.
New developments tonight after a 15-year-old squeegee kid was charged with the death of a Baltimore driver. Tonight, we have learned of a possible plea deal in this case. While the lawyers for the teen are welcoming this deal, the family of Timothy Reynolds say that is not justice. We have team coverage. Jeff Abel heard from the teen's attorneys and will join us in just a moment. First, Mackenzie Frost has the latest on the deal and reaction from Reynolds' family tonight.
Dhruv Ignaraja, who is representing the family pro bono, is the first one to admit that this case is difficult given the suspect's age. But the family of Timothy Reynolds says that the city of Baltimore is failing them and failing the city, not just because of this latest plea agreement on the table, but because of the squeegee issue itself. And now they're calling on the city's top prosecutor, Marilyn Mosby, to recuse herself altogether. July 7th, 2022, the day that changed two families' lives forever.
Our family is absolutely devastated.
Timothy Reynolds gunned down at the intersection of Light and Conway, right near Baltimore's Inner Harbor. Tavon Scott, who was 14 years old at the time, arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Scott's family and attorneys calling the shooting a textbook self-defense, since Reynolds had a baseball bat in his hand.
I think ultimately the facts are going to show that this is a case of what we call perfect self-defense.
Now, with a manslaughter plea offer on the table, the Reynolds family is speaking up and pushing back.
And so now the fact that he's saying it's manslaughter, which one is it? Perfect self-defense or manslaughter? It's murder.
And now?
I've kept private this whole time, and because I trusted the process.
Timothy's widow, Shannon Reynolds, is breaking her silence in an emotional statement about learning the case would be moved to juvenile court and the suspect would no longer be facing first-degree murder charges.
I was blindsided Friday when I spoke and I heard that the state, and it's Mosby, offering a plea deal to Tavon Scott, who shot my husband point blank 5 times while he was walking away. We are devastated. My family is devastated.
The Reynolds family frustrated. They say Mosby's office left them out of the conversation surrounding a plea deal, and they want change.
She never contacted the family. I want justice for Tim, and I need everyone's help. Mosby should recuse herself.
At the heart of the argument, 2 pieces of video the family just watched Monday morning with police. They say the video shows Tim Reynolds walking away and the suspect grabbing a gun. That video has yet to be made public. And while the case moves forward, Tim's family says the city could have prevented the entire situation from happening. Do you put any responsibility or blame on city leaders for not enforcing some of the laws dealing with squeegee kids before this incident happened?
For the safety of the squeegee kids and the public, the city should have taken a stand and enforced the law. They failed everyone. They failed us. They failed the defendant. They failed the city. And they continue to do that.
Fast forward 4 months, Light and Conway returns to daily life. Police sitting at the corner watching while squeegee kids are often seen at the place where 2 families' lives forever changed. There is a hearing scheduled for Thursday morning. That's when we expect the judge to either accept or reject this plea deal. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, FOX 45 News.
City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby released a statement in response to the family's press conference, saying in part, while the actions of this juvenile are wholly unacceptable and excusable, we stand firm in our ultimate recommendation. There are no winners in this tragic incident, and I am disheartened by the pain and anguish it has caused in our community. Well, that brings us to our question of the day. Should Marilyn Mosby recuse herself from the squeegee murder case? So far, 96% of people who voted say yes. We still want to hear what the rest of you think. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. Now, in response to the Reynolds family news conference, the attorneys representing the teenager accused in this case and the teen's mother are also speaking out. Fox 45's Jeff Abel was there and brings us their message. Jeff?
Well, attorneys for this teenage murder suspect are making their case this afternoon why this case deserves to be in the juvenile court, not the adult court. At a news conference this afternoon, defense attorneys continued to characterize this case as one of a frightened teenager who took action after only being threatened. In fact, here's how they described what happened that day.
The man said that he was going to kill these children. He said, he used expletives. He said, I'm going to kill your effing A's. So I don't care what a video shows. What we saw in the video was the man swinging his bat. What we saw from the information that we received was that the man made contact with at least a child, struck him twice, and he was shot in return.
If the judge does accept this plea deal come Thursday, then the teenage suspect, who's now 15, will be serving his time in juvenile court and would be released by the age of 21. We're live. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Thuru Vignaraja, who is serving as the Reynolds family spokesperson, joined us in studio earlier tonight. Here are his thoughts on why he believes Marilyn Mosby failed to handle the case properly.
This is such a tragedy for a young man to be charged with such a serious crime, and his age ought to be a factor at sentencing. It ought to be a mitigating circumstance that the judge considers. But to issue a plea deal without ever telling the victim, this is not the first time Marilyn Mosby has done this. She is making a habit of abdicating her responsibility to the family, to the citizens, and she is at this point just taking care of her own legacy and her own friends.
Well, as the family of Timothy Reynolds breaks their silence, the mayor was just 2 blocks away hosting an unrelated press conference. We asked him about the claim from Reynolds' family that if laws on the books were being enforced at the time, Reynolds would be alive today.
Do you dispute that?
Well, I think, Alexa, thank you for your question. I think that the data disputes that, right? When you see the amount of arrests that our police department has made for guns, when you see the record amount of gun arrests and gun seizures that they've made in the city this year, when you see the amount of folks involved in squeegee work who went to criminal behavior that they've arrested, the data would say something else different than that.
We'll stay with Fox 45 News for continuing coverage. We'll let you know what happens in court on Thursday.
Now, a Fox 45 News alert in 3, 2, 1.
An auto shop in Northwest Baltimore has been evacuated after a fire broke out this afternoon. According to city officials, the fire started just before 3 o'clock this afternoon on West Cold Spring Lane near Wabash Avenue. Video from the scene posted online shows thick smoke rising from the fire. The Baltimore City Fire Union said a hazmat team was called in because of chemicals used inside that shop. Now, firefighters say the bulk of that fire has been put out. No injuries have been reported. Mary?
Thank you. Well, coming up, new police video from the final moments of a pursuit in October that led to a deadly crash in the city. The questions that remain unanswered ahead. And the latest from Charlottesville after a UVA student was taken into custody accused of murdering his 3 former football teammates. The red flags raised weeks ago and why no action was taken.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined. Now, a Fox 45 News alert in 3, 2, 1.
The University of Virginia community is reeling after a devastating and deadly shooting late last night. 3 football players were shot and killed on a charter bus coming back from a school field trip to D.C. The suspect is 22-year-old Christopher Darnell Jones, a former football player himself. Police are trying to determine a motive. The victims are Devin Chandler from Virginia Beach, Deshaun Perry from Miami, and Lavelle Davis Jr. from Ridgeville, South Carolina. 2 other students were hurt.
Where they had been for the day, enjoying a school activity, having a meal together, and coming back to our grounds, and someone amongst them chose to do an act of violence.
University police say the suspect was brought to their attention this fall after receiving information Jones had made a comment about possessing a gun. The university says they followed up on the case, but it was eventually closed because witnesses wouldn't cooperate. Jones is now facing 3 counts of second-degree murder and using a handgun in the commission of a felony. Mary?
Kai, taking a look now at the Fox box. Top left, the Maryland Attorney General's office has released video of a police pursuit in northwest Baltimore, which led to the death of a 17-year-old back in October. Police say they were following Quelly Murphy Almateen's vehicle when he crashed with 2 other cars. Still no information on why police were following his vehicle. Top right, a 20-year-old is now the 3rd person to plead guilty in the murder of Ephraim Gordon. He is the Israeli man visiting Baltimore when he was shot and killed in a robbery last May. 2 teens have also been charged. Bottom left, Maryland will receive $8.6 million as part of a multi-state lawsuit against Google and its location tracking practices. Bottom right, mobile sports betting could be coming to Maryland this month. On Wednesday, the Sports Wagering Application Review Commission will consider awarding licenses to 10 mobile sports wagering firms. And here's our look at today's top trending stories. Number 1, a 9-year-old was hit by a stray bullet early this morning in Glen Burnie. It happened at a home not far from North Glen Elementary. Police say the bullet came through the front door of the home. The child's injuries are not life-threatening. The incident is under investigation. Number 2, Baltimore police say someone on a dirt bike fired shots in Harbor East this weekend. Police say it happened Saturday. We're told one rider opened fire on a man who threw a bag of leaves at them. No one was hurt. The city recently passed a law that stiffens penalties for street racing and other riding of dirt bikes in the city. So today we questioned Mayor Scott and the police commissioner about enforcement.
Is BPD empowered to make those arrests of dirt bike riders?
BPD is empowered to make arrests on anybody who commits any kind of crime. Anybody who commits a crime, that's what we do. We enforce criminal law. And so the answer to that is yes. We always have. We always will.
Dirt bikes are a problem in cities around the country, Alexa. You have to understand that they're going to continue to deal with them appropriately. We're also working with folks like Beat 360s to deal with it in a proper way. It's a part of the culture in the city now. But it doesn't matter if they were on a dirt bike or on a pedal bike. They had an illegal gun.
The mayor then taking the conversation to guns and the prevalence of them that exist today. No arrests have been made in that case. Well, Fox 45 News also sent a question to city council members stating you recently passed a bill strengthening the penalties for dirt bike riders who violate the law. Are you satisfied with BPD's enforcement of the law? So far, we haven't heard back. Number 3, a bill seeking to shorten the amount of time for Baltimore City Council members to qualify for a lifetime pension continues to make its way through the commissions. The bill is set for a 3rd reading sometime in the coming weeks. The effort comes as voters just passed Question K on Election Day, establishing term limits for these elected officials. The proposal calls to shorten City Council's pension eligibility from 12 years to 8. Some inside City Hall question if the city can afford this change and why there's a rush to pass this proposal right now. A few members of the council have said they do not support the pension plan or have abstained from voting on the issue that would impact them directly. CEO of OpenTheBooks.com tells Fox 45 News these pensions come with a big price tag.
We crunched the numbers. If they live from age 50 to life expectancy with cost of living increases to their lifetime pension, they'll receive about $500,000. It's really good to vote yourself benefits from the public trough, and it raises real questions of self-dealing.
And that brings us to our other question of the day. Is it fair for first responders to wait 25 years for a city pension while council members wait 8? So far, 97% of the people who voted say no. We want to hear what you think. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. Make sure to click on the Pulse tab.
Next weather maker moving in with some winter weather advisories as close as just over the Carroll County line into southern Pennsylvania. Those go all the way up toward New York State in the purple and all the way down the spine of the Appalachians, all in preparation for this. Take a look. Winter storm warnings in the suburbs of Oklahoma City all the way to the Texas border. There's rain, there's snow, there's cold. Goes all the way up to Kansas City and Chicago. That's really where the track of accumulating snow with this is going to be, and then well to our north. But around here, we are going to see a chilly rain, and that will develop for tomorrow. The cold is already here in place. Now, with this type of track down along the Gulf Coast, usually we'd really hold in the cold air during the winter time when it's the coldest, and we'd have rain and snow, and mainly actually probably wet snow across the area. But with this one, it is still November, and that sun angle still higher, and it's a lot easier to get rid of the cold air as that moisture feeds northbound. So the very highest elevations, well north and west up towards the state line, yes, there could be some wet flakes here and there mixed in towards sunset tomorrow. It's not out of the question, but everybody else is just a cold rain, and even there, it's going to melt on contact if it does mix in. Right now, Toyota Eastern Harbor Skycam, it's 45. Winds out of the northeast at 8. Make it for a wind chill. It's cold, 41 degrees. Freeze warning still out for the eastern shore where the growing season continues at least one more night. Everybody else out of it because their growing season's over after lows at 32 at the airport yesterday, or actually I should say this morning. Temperatures now already falling through the 30s and 40s after highs only at 50 this afternoon. Should be closer to 60 this time of year. And look at that cold air feeding in from the north and west. So even once this rain moves out, cold air is again going to move in. So overall, overnight tonight, a mix of clouds and stars. Temperatures still settling to near freezing. There's some of that rain. I think it's maybe a sprinkle tomorrow noontime, but really in the afternoon after about 3, 4 o'clock, once you're picking up the kids from school, you'll start seeing the raindrops come down. And then look, north and west, that blue, that's snow down the Blue Ridge spine. There could be, again, right along that edge of Carroll County up towards the Pennsylvania line, a mix of rain and some wet snow for a time around sunset, and then it's just on and off rain. Some of that heavy at times going all the way into tomorrow evening, tomorrow overnight. By tomorrow, way late at night, I think probably towards Wednesday sunrise, that's when our rain's going to end. It could be a ½ inch to an inch of rain in spots, so pretty good rain coming down. 30 degrees, clouds and stars for tonight, 46 becoming cloudy, wet by late day tomorrow. I'm going to let you know how long it's going to take to get rid of this and what comes beyond it in the exclusive 10-day forecast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A cold and snowy day in the Texas Panhandle. These images come from viewers in the Amarillo area. The first measurable snowfall of the season was expected to drop 4 inches across the region. A bit farther north, a Nebraska viewer captured freezing fog on trees. This happens when supercooled water droplets in the fog freeze on contact with objects on the ground as temperatures are below freezing.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
Winter is coming, and the city of Baltimore wants you to get excited about it. The new plans for salt boxes and how you can get in on the fun. In vote 2022 tonight, control of the House of Representatives is down to 19 races still being counted, 13 considered toss-ups. Democrats clinched the Senate at 50, while Republicans won 49 seats. Republicans are currently closer to gaining a majority in the House, winning 212 seats over Democrats' 204. The GOP needs 218 seats for that majority, but it will likely take days for the final results. Well, 6 days after Election Day, and mail-in ballots continue to be counted in Anne Arundel County. Tonight, we're still waiting for results to be posted from today's canvass, but some races remain too close to call, with tens of thousands of ballots left to be counted. In the race for Anne Arundel County Executive, the most recent results show Republican Jessica Hare's lead is shrinking a bit, now less than 6,000 votes ahead of incumbent Democrat Stuart Pittman. 50,000 mail-in ballots were returned by Anne Arundel County voters.
Exclusive 10-day forecast, 46 for tomorrow. Rain developing during the afternoon after about 3 o'clock through the p.m. commute. Could even have a couple of wet flakes. Extreme northwestern portion of the viewing area shouldn't accumulate to anything. Then it's back to 55 with clearing skies gradually on Wednesday, 46 Thursday, 40s only all the way through the Ravens game. So you're going to have to bundle up there. Bright skies into early next week with a high 48. And then it's getting a little closer to average, but still below where we should be for this time of year all the way through the end of next week as rain returns potentially by next Thursday.
Well, the city is thinking colder weather because Mayor Brandon Scott says Baltimore City is ready for any severe winter weather that might come our way. The mayor says the city has a snow budget of more than $7 million and is stocked with more than 15,000 tons of salt. City leaders also addressed salt boxes, which became popular on social media last year. They've actually been popular for a very long time. Artists have decorated them for years. Well, this year, the city is putting 5 giant salt boxes throughout our city and encouraging artists to decorate them as well. Mayor Scott, he decorated the first box with his initials in the Wu-Tang Clan symbol.
And yes, if you were wondering, that is a Brandon Scott Wu-Tang symbol that has been stenciled onto the salt box. Snowstorms are temporary, but Wu-Tang is forever.
You heard it there. That's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud's next. We'll see you back here tonight at 10.